There we go. It's March 2014, and about a year ago I told you I'll be back next year with 2014 Landon Bracketology, and that's what brings us here this evening. I'm coming to you from my home office in Olympia, Washington. Since last year I've transplanted myself from Portland, Oregon to Olympia, Washington, which is where we are tonight. I was lucky enough to become a college head coach this year, which unfortunately means I can't participate in these brackets like I haven't been able to the past couple years. But this is still my favorite sporting event. My family, my friends participate in brackets, and so I figure it's the least I can do to give you guys 8 minutes of high-level knowledge on the 2014 NCAA tournament. At this point, we'll just jump right in. I'm going to start in the Midwest region, where Wichita State got that #1 seed. These are my notes. We're in the Midwest, so Wichita State, deserved it. They were at the Final Four last year, lost, then didn't lose a game all year, and earned that #1 seed, regardless of what anybody thinks about other teams in the field. They are not going to make it to the Final Four this year, so I would not suggest putting them in there, regardless of seeding. And I think they could even lose as early as Kentucky in the second round. And I know Kentucky's kind of up and down. They've got unbelievable players. They've got talent in that program, and sometimes it could be as simple as that. If you're looking for an upset in that region, try this one out. North Carolina State. They have to play the playing game tomorrow night. It's late Monday night right now. So on Tuesday they'll play the playing game against Xavier, and then I think if they win that, they match up with St. Louis, and I think they could steal that one. North Carolina State, again, they're in the ACC, so really tough competition all year. They've got a potential lottery guy on their team in TJ Warren, so that's one to keep an eye on. The matchup that I hope happens, this is actually the #1 matchup I'm hoping for in the tournament before the Final Four, is this Duke-Louisville potential for them to meet. That'd just be unbelievable for a couple of reasons. One is having two elite scorers, Jabari Parker and Russ Smith, going against each other, and then of course Coach K and Rick Pitino coaching against each other. Let me go on the record now, since he's in the tournament. Jabari Parker is who you take in the 2014 draft, and that's not what we're here for, but I want to get on the record. I agree with everybody else that says that Wiggins has the most upside. Jabari Parker is the sure thing, so take that. That's who you want, regardless of how much upside the other guy has. Getting back to the tournament, Michigan's in there with the #2 seed. I love watching Michigan. I don't think it's going to happen. It would also be cool to see them play Louisville in a rematch from last year's title game. I just don't think Michigan has it, especially with McGarry out. He's so good and important to what they do. I don't think they can get past. So I got Louisville going to the Final Four out of that region, and that will bring us up to the West region, where Arizona got the #1 seed. I was excited about that. I'm happy that the Pac-12 has a highly seeded team that's getting national credit. They deserve that. I think that the biggest threat to them is also a West Coast school, San Diego State. I know there's a lot of West Coast bias in these bracketology reports, but San Diego State is especially cool. They have kids from Northern California, a lot of Sacramento area talent on that team. And they have guards that can score. I mean, that team can score, and that'll make them a threat to Arizona. Arizona's really, really good. I love what they have, across the board. I think Tarczewski doesn't get enough credit. He's just an absolute physical specimen, and I think he's going to cause problems in this tournament. I'm not saying that San Diego State will do it, but I think that they could. I think that'll be a good game regardless if we get to see that. And then, Creighton, it's going to be pretty tough to cheer against this year. I was telling one of my players, it's been about 10 years since I was playing community college basketball, and I was trying to tell him, try to imagine kind of a Doug McDermott when you think Aaron Landon in 2003. Also on that side of the bracket, you've got Oregon. I think Oregon could make another little run to the Sweet 16 and surprise some people. That'd mean that they'd have to get past Wisconsin, which would be a challenge. Oregon's really good at scoring. If they can just kind of play their pace instead of getting slowed down by Wisconsin, they would really have a shot. They've got the talent to do it. Last year, I had Oregon over Oklahoma State, who had a high seed. They did that, and we guided you correctly on that. So take a look at Oregon, especially if you're doing like 2 brackets. That's the one to keep an eye on. And I know I just said, slowing down is something that Wisconsin does, and they've got to speed Wisconsin up. That'd be an unbelievable challenge. But if they could do it, they could definitely be in the Sweet 16. Keep an eye on that. I still have Arizona coming out of the West to get into the Final Four. Okay, in the East, Virginia, which is turning into a really cool #1 seed. There's a lot of really smart people on TV, but nobody can say, we saw this coming, or we thought that Virginia would be a #1 seed in the tournament. I love their team. I think part of the reason that they're peaking right now is, through that ACC tournament, obviously a defensive-minded team. They were able to, scout these teams again who they know real well. I don't see them getting to the Elite Eight, and that's simply because Michigan State is right there. It's nothing against Virginia. Michigan State is, whatever happened during the year, the health, everything else. They're in the tournament now. Allegedly they're healthy. They're an unbelievable, physical team across the board, and they're just talented. The front line, the back court, the play of Adrian Payne, if he's healthy, he gets their whole front court going, and then Harris and Appling, those guys seem like they've been around forever. And then plus it's Tom Izzo. So I see them getting to the Final Four. I think Iowa State is really good. Melvin Ejim's fun to watch. Obviously Fred Hoiberg, the mayor, is fun to cheer for. So I could see them playing Michigan State to see who goes into that Final Four game. But I have Michigan State coming out of there. I just think that they're too good, especially if they're healthy. I just think, when these games start, they're just going to be too much to handle, and they can be a really special team. I'll get back to them in a few minutes. If you want an upset down there, try out St. Joe's. That's not a real popular upset pick. Take a look at that one. So they have to beat UConn, but then potentially you're looking at a Philadelphia grudge match between them and #2 seed Villanova, which would be really cool. That game is in Buffalo, New York. So, 2 Philadelphia schools going against each other in New York. I think that, everything matchup seed, it all goes out the window, and it's just a neighborhood game, and I think that St. Joe's could sneak into the Sweet 16 past Villanova. But again, ultimately, I got Michigan State coming out of the East. And then finally, we are in the South. We're #1 Florida is right now is the best team in the nation. I don't think you can argue that. Unfortunately, it's Monday night, so being the best team in the nation the Monday before the tournament doesn't mean that much once the field is seeded. I have to mention, and I know I mentioned this last year, UCLA and Florida, they just play every single year. And, it was in like the Final Four maybe 7 years ago. But then they started seeing each other in the round of 32. It just seems like they're on the same side of the bracket, and they play each other like every other year. I would venture to say that if you went in the last 8 years, they played in the tournament 4 times at least. And it might be 4 times in the last 7 years. So anyways, to get back to the tournament, I think that they can beat VCU. I think that'll be a really good game. They'll have their hands full with Florida. I can't even talk about that one because I'm a UCLA fan, and I go down there and work camp in the summer, and I have the Pyramid of Success and my wall. Stay with UCLA through any coach, players. I'm just cheering for them to get past VCU, and I think Florida's a really good team. Syracuse is on that side of the bracket. I love Syracuse. I love Jim Boeheim. By the way, if you haven't seen the new 30 for 30 on the Big East, watch that before you make up your mind about Boeheim. If all you saw was, the technical and some of his press clips from this year, that was really cool. That was on ESPN last night. But again, back to the tournament. I think that the best way to kind of evaluate teams in the tournament is that team capable of, stringing these wins together and getting to the Final Four? and I think Syracuse is that team. They were number one in the country, and obviously they were undefeated for a while, and they've lost a few games. They're playing in the ACC. But if you're talking about them stringing together wins to make a run, I think that they can get to the Final Four. If they beat Kansas, who's also on that region, then I think they can roll Florida and Syracuse can get to the Final Four. Kansas is a tough call just because nobody really knows, besides his doctors and probably Bill Self, what's going on with Joel Embiid. He's just a game changer, I guess, is a cliche, but the best way to put it. And if he's not, playing, or if he's playing but he's not, healthy and who he is and who he showed he was all year long, I think that Kansas is in for trouble. And I think that Syracuse would be the threat. Having had a significant lower back injury, post players, it's such a physical game. I just don't see how you can recover from that so quick, especially if it's a significant injury that could, keep him out of his conference tournament. So I have Syracuse coming out of that region. People are talking about Dayton as an upset pick over Ohio State. Please don't do that. I mean, Ohio State, again, you see them lose some games, but it's a Big Ten team. Nothing against Dayton. I just think Ohio State's really good. And I know people hate when I say this, but Aaron Kraft will win some games in the tournament. So don't take that one. Maybe Stanford over New Mexico. Stanford kind of, up and down in the Pac-12. But tournament time and with Powell, they could, that's not a huge upset. That'd be a 10-7, but one to think about. So I have Syracuse coming out. So then I have Syracuse and Michigan State meeting. I love Boeheim in that zone. I just think Michigan State is the most talented and tough team. They're unbelievably well coached. I think they get past Syracuse, and then I think that they meet Louisville in the finals. Louisville, I think, goes back over Arizona. I love Russ Smith. I love that whole team. Pitino's a stud, and I just love to see them back in the Final Four. And was all over them last year. Loved them. Which brings me to the championship game. I have Michigan State, knocking Louisville off in a great one. Bet Michigan State. They're just too good right now if they really are healthy, and it seems like they are. And they're due to win one. So again, some plugs at the very end. Will and John's annual pool is the best bracket in the country. I don't care what Warren Buffett releases. It's not close. That's the one that my friends do. My family does that one. So if you don't know Will or John, that's something you need to address between now and 2015 March Madness. You can get in on that. I'll be going to Dallas to the Final Four. Our staff will be well represented. Myself and Carson will be there. If anybody has any tips on Dallas, go ahead and let us know. We're there for 5 nights. So obviously we'll be at the NABC convention and awards and checking out the scene and seeing everybody. But obviously got to fill some time. And I know nothing about Dallas. I've never been to Texas in my life. One thing on our agenda worth sharing, and I'll wrap up with this. Even with Doug McDermott being an absolute stud, Russ Smith is my favorite player in the country, and I was a fan of his Instagram account all year. Russ Smith has an Instagram account. His name's the Based King. This guy's unbelievable. Just puts up all kinds of crazy different stuff. It was a long winter and a tough season up here, but he would always post things and hashtag it out at the end with "Stay positive, act accordingly, and maybe you'll get lucky," which is a great theme for March, especially with you filling out your brackets. Do what Russ Smith says when it comes time for March. Stay positive, act accordingly, maybe you'll get lucky. Enjoy the tournament. I will take this advice, fill out a bracket. If there's one thing that we've proven, it's that we're really, really good at doing this over here in the Landon household. Enjoy the tournament.